Hello, and welcome to our mini series talking to women here at SYSTRA all about their careers. I'm joined here today by Emma, who is an associate in the development and infrastructure team. Welcome, Emma. So tell me about your role here at SYSTRA.
So my role, I'm an associate in the London office. I sit within the development infrastructure sector, specifically within development planning. So I sort of work to support private sector developers, local authorities on the development of sort of large scale schemes, supporting from sort of feasibility, site appraisals through to planning applications, through to sort of on the ground construction. So we're really working through the sort of full life cycle of projects. We work with both private and public sector, so we get involved in sort of various aspects, including some sort of policy development and some aspects of sort of local scale transport modelling, assessments, and sort of transport assessments to support schemes at planning stage, and sort of through to sort of actual transport scheme design. So we really try and focus on schemes which are sort of people centric, so supporting sort of the end users with how they can navigate to those developments, how they can travel from that development to local services, and how we can design places and spaces that are inclusive for all, meet sort of the needs of a sustainable community, and sort of encourage sort of reduce reliance on private vehicles, so looking at sort of the uptake of active modes. I'm also a line manager and support with the graduate development scheme. So I've done some graduate training and also helping sort of mentor on the GDP scheme here at SYSTRA.
Yeah, that's really great. And I can vouch that you're a great line manager because Emma is my line manager, also working in the D&I team, which is really great. And kind of one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you today is because I've been very fortunate in my career that I have had women as line managers, both prior to SYSTRA and now at SYSTRA as well. And I think that is a really great way for someone at a more junior level to really see where their careers can go. Just touching upon how you got into this career, is this something you've always wanted to do, or how did you kind of get to where you are now?
So I've really had sort of a keen interest in sort of sustainability and the environmental agenda from sort of a young age. I studied geography at Loughborough University, and that was where I sort of opened my eyes to the sort of broad range of what you can get into from a sort of sustainability perspective, and what sort of avenues you can go down. Um, I attended a careers fair where someone from JMP Consultants attended as a sort of speaker about transport planning. And what struck me is sort of the diversity of sort of the range of services that you can get involved with in a career in transport planning. So looking at from sort of on the ground engagement through to transport modelling, through to design, through to engineering. Um, and sort of it sparked me that it kind of covered a whole breadth of different skills that I felt was really sort of interested in a career I sort of wanted to pursue. I then sort of from those sort of careers fairs looked at sort of targeting sort of different transport consultancies, and I knew for me that I was quite interested in getting involved in a graduate development scheme. So trying to sort of get on a role which allowed me to sort of go and develop with a number of peers alongside me to build up sort of that network of colleagues. And that's been a really great sort of experience. I joined JMP Consultants in 2014, which was then sort of acquired by SYSTRA in 2015. And so since then, I've had that sort of network of peers, some of which are still colleagues at SYSTRA, some of which have now moved on to other organisations, but we still have that sort of cohort of sort of London-based graduates who sort of I joined with sort of from sort of my early career days.
Yeah, and you touched upon that when you initially started out in your career, it was JMP Consulting, and then obviously it was acquired by SYSTRA. I appreciate that that was quite early on in your kind of career timeline, but how did you find that transition going in from what you initially started to now what is SYSTRA?
I think for me, it's been really positive in that you can, so JMP sort of consultants, I was also within the development planning sector, but there was a sort of broader service offering at SYSTRA. So it it sort of opened my eyes to sort of wider sectors within sort of the transport consultancy service that I could then benefit from and have benefited from um, when I sort of looked to pursue sort of chartership and sort of gain those kind of skills that were more broader ranging. It's been really valuable to sort of have those sort of trading opportunities across different sectors, and I've really sort of found that useful. Obviously, you get the benefits of trying to navigate sort of the merge in terms of pros and cons of different approaches that both organisations had, and how can we work together to achieve something that is collectively sort of aligned with the sort of streamlining of goals of both organisations.
Yeah, and I think it is really interesting what you were previously talking about as well in terms of that cohort of graduates. And obviously, during that time when that merge was started to happen, you were part of that cohort of graduates. So you had that kind of people that you could rely on and speak to about their experience and stuff. And now that you're past that point and you're flourishing in your career, how do you integrate with the new grads coming in? And you mentioned about the training, just kind of touch upon kind of how that's working and what you can offer.
So I think so we recognise the importance of networking among peers at SYSTRA, and I think some of the sort of training that's now been brought forward through both the graduate development scheme and the developing professional scheme is really positive, because it just gives you a sort of cohort of other colleagues that you can work with, bounce ideas off, and people in other areas of the business that you can sort of reach out to get a second opinion on certain approaches that you're taking. And that's really, really important and sort of valuable as you sort of move through your career, and is always important at all different stages. I think in terms of the training perspective, so we've tried out sort of different approaches. We've undertaken some sort of graduate sessions that are online, some that are in person, and each year we have a sort of structure of graduate training, which each of the new graduates are invited to attend, and it covers all sort of range of technical specialist areas, and I've sort of had the opportunity to present at some of those sessions, and that's been really sort of interesting to see how different graduates are engaging with different sessions. And so we always take on board sort of feedback from those to try and roll out in sort of subsequent year graduate training.
Hmm. So obviously this mini series that we're running is talking about women in the industry. It's just to talk about your experience in kind of being a woman in the industry and whether you've had to overcome any particular barriers, and if not, or where do you where have you seen change within the industry that's allowed you to maybe progress because of the work that's come before? You obviously mentioned about STEM coming into university, and that's how you kind of understood what could be a career out of your degree, but is there just anything else?
So I think I personally feel that as I've sort of progressed through my career, I have had those opportunities that has been provided to me through sort of discussions and agreements of where you want to get to with your own sort of line managers and mentors. I think that's really important, and I do feel that sort of we've had those sort of level opportunities across with the cohort that I sort of joined SYSTRA with. I think having those sort of positive relationships with mentors is really key to testing and challenging yourselves. I think you have to undertake tasks that are maybe push you outside of your comfort zone to really grow and develop from those experiences. And I think that's something that is really key, and your sort of managers and mentees should really try and push you towards some of those opportunities, irrespective of your background. It should involve a kind of diverse range of people that are put forward for different opportunities, and schemes such as like the Next Gen Leadership Team are really great in that people can feel empowered from themselves to take that action to put forward ideas. And I think that's something that I've found has been sort of listened to throughout my career, and is really something that I think is stepping up now. Really trying to recognise and value the sort of importance of a diverse range of opinion, a diverse teams, and sort of the range of sort of feedback from all different people at all different stages of their career. In relation to sort of the women aspect and the women at SYSTRA, something I have found quite interesting is I've been involved in some of the graduate recruitment over the last sort of several years, and we have seen quite a diverse range of applications coming in, and there's a good balance actually of different genders applying for roles at SYSTRA, particularly in sort of certain areas of the business, and it's been something that's been sort of brought up and raised by graduates themselves, that they've seen sort of initiatives such as the Women at SYSTRA initiative, and that's really positive that people are sort of seeing that, recognising that as a strength of an organisation and wanting to apply because of sort of those wider values. So, whether that, I can't say whether that would have been the case sort of 10, 15 years ago, but I've certainly seen that a rise on that since I've been involved in some of the graduate recruitment.
Yeah, and definitely I agree on your point about you have to almost champion yourself as well as, have other people give you that feedback. And coming into SYSTRA, so I joined about a year ago, and Emma's my line manager. So which is really great. But we built that relationship where I can come to you and be like, Emma, this is my game plan. I would like this in so many years, or realistically this is where I want my career to go, whether that's more technical or project management. Having those really open and honest conversations with your line manager does make a difference, because then you can spot, oh well, this project will be good for that, or actually let's get you on this training course, or get you kind of doing that. So that's been really good, and definitely something that I've experienced just in my time at SYSTRA. And also talking about the grads, it's good to hear that actually either the industry is coming along where actually people in those kind of STEM university degrees are getting more equal, or it's the opposite, and actually because SYSTRA do so much to kind of get that balance, that people are being drawn to SYSTRA, and that's why potentially we're seeing it. But I'm sure that wasn't the case so many years ago, so that's been really good to hear that is the outcome. So in terms of your career specifically, has there been a standout moment or an achievement that you've had where I've made it, this is the right path for me, this is the big moment?
Probably one of my biggest achievements throughout my career was sort of my route to chartership. And I was I worked through the process on the professional development scheme of the Transport Planning Society. So I worked through that and submitted for interview, and sort of my final submission in 2020 for that. So the timing of that was less than ideal, with us then going straight into a lockdown. So I had to navigate that challenge of, it was my first sort of remote interview. That was my sort of full interview assessment. It was quite early doors into COVID period, so we weren't really used to sort of Teams environments very much. And sort of you've got a sort of range of assessors, interviewing you to try and pursue that goal of the end goal of chartership. So I was really pleased to sort of pass that professional development scheme during COVID period, and glad that sort of the society adapted to it. Previously it was all done in person, and it was all adapted to allow us to continue to take on those assessments. And then I've sort of since then gone on to chartership with the Transport Planning Society, and attained that in 2023. So I've kind of worked through my career trying to generate a sort of broad range of skills across different sectors of the business, trying to have project experiences that really helped me get that sort of well-rounded portfolio which you need for chartership. And one of the main sort of reasons I feel I've been supported through that process was sort of the diversity of projects and skills we have at SYSTRA. I was able to sort of call on colleagues, peers, some of which were from my graduate scheme as well, to just bounce ideas off, get sort of insight into projects that they were working on. And it really helped me with sort of pursuing chartership and then finally sort of being successful with my application. And the other sort of key emphasis of that was sort of my mentor through that process was really supportive and sort of offered me guidance and coaching all throughout both the initial PDS scheme and then onto chartership. Sort of I saw from an early days quite a number of female colleagues at SYSTRA who had obtained chartership, including my mentor, and that was sort of one of those, you just see other people that have achieved that and then feel that's something that sort of you really want to pursue. And I felt sort of very supported through that process. And since then, it's been really sort of I found it very fulfilling to help others through that sort of journey as well. So helping out other people as they're sort of preparing for their own interviews. It's just using those opportunities and then framing it back as a way you can sort of give back to others as well, to support them through that journey.
Yeah, and chartership is definitely something I know a lot of people strive to do. So it's great to hear that you have that kind of support system. And I'm in the very early days of hopefully starting my chartership route. But it is that confidence piece around, what you're talking about, and you do have that knowledge, but it's getting it down on paper within the format that they request it in, and actually having those people who have gone through it help you and guide you is such a big thing, because it just gives you that extra level, like you are doing the right thing, you are on the right track with this process. How did you find doing chartership alongside kind of project work and finding that right balance?
It does require sort of self-motivation, and a lot of it comes from within that sort of drive to you want to succeed, and you've seen others that have done it, and you're sort of supported through that process. Carving out time as sort of manageable goals, I think, is key for what may seem like this is a really extensive piece of work that you have to navigate through. But if you set it into sort of smaller chunks, and sort of my mentor once said to me, just focus on one at a time rather than trying to do small bits across all of them, because then you don't feel like you're getting through them. But if you're ticking them off one at a time, it feels a more manageable chunk, and then actually suddenly you realize, oh, okay, I'm over halfway. I need to focus on these areas, and it just makes you sort of navigate that journey a bit simpler. And obviously you've got to balance it around work and home commitments. So there might be periods in your life where it's easier to not focus so much on chartership. There might be areas where you have a bit more time and you can. So it's a very personal journey, I think, and sort of people need to find a sort of space that works for them around their sort of other commitments.
Yeah, definitely. That is something that I need to do, is put that block out of my time and just get that kind of motivation done. But it is great that you have so many chances on different projects to go, actually, I'm missing this key thing. Who can I work with? And you can call upon different offices, different sectors. So
Yeah,
really have that collaboration piece.
yeah,
in
and they
place.
certainly support you through that. To try and carve out those extra. If you've put in sort of all the effort to get majority of the way, obviously, it's really great that people are there to support you to pass that final hurdle, and then achieve that sort of goal.
On to the final question, which I have asked all of the guests. If you could give one piece of advice to someone of how to succeed in their career, what advice would you give?
The main bit of advice is to believe in yourself. You should be an advocate for yourself, your biggest advocate for yourself, and sort of relish opportunities that come to you. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that's the way in which you will grow, learn, and develop. And then as you sort of reflect on those opportunities that you've been given, consider if there's opportunities that you could give to others around you and other people that you are working with, colleagues, mentoring, or as a line manager. Just carve out opportunities for them as well. And I think it just helps with that sort of reflection back to carve out what will then be a sort of fulfilling and valued career.
Yeah, no, I really like that. It is important to know what worked for you and actually how can you then relay that onto the next kind of cohort coming through. So no, that's been really insightful. Thank you so much for joining me for this chat.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone listening. If you want to know more about what SYSTRA is getting up to, please look on our social media channels or check out the website. Thank you very much.